Charlie Kirk, as far as a symbol of faith and obviously the Son of God. But I believe the same thing happened when they murdered Jesus Christ, and I think that movement's been going for a couple thousand years. John Yep, CEO and President, Catholics for Catholics on the Newsmax Hotline. How are you today, sir?
Great, Rob. Relatively, anyways, considering everything that's going on, but we are focused and poised, ready for the next steps.
You know, John, I have heard forever from stand-up comedians, and even myself to some degree, you always say, well, I'm a recovering Catholic. You've heard that line a million times, I'm sure, John. I'm a recovering Catholic.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
I got to tell you, though, with Charlie Kirk's murder and with the direction of our country and the exposition of all of the evil that we've seen in our government, we're seeing even more of it today on Capitol Hill with showing that the FBI had targeted like 93 conservative organizations, including TPUSA. John, I've never felt closer to God.
Yeah.
I've never felt closer. I've never felt closer to God and my faith, and I've never felt more patriotic and loving of my country than I do right now, John.
You know why? Because Charlie stood for America, yes, but there's something that you can never separate patriotism from love for God. And Charlie's death just proved that. 37,000 people have responded to Charlie's call to say, you know what, I'm going to honor the blood that fell there in Utah at that university, and I'm going to get into action. Charlie was a dear friend of mine. We go way back. We grew up, in Lamont. That's where we started Turning Point USA in Illinois. Then we reconnected here in Phoenix. Sure, we worked together. We chased down ballots in the 2024 election. But I had the privilege of just being kind of a window into Charlie's faith life. We attended the same church. I would see him there. Rob, we would fist bump on our way out, going, to our office. It was natural. We talked back and forth. I mean, he wasn't Catholic, but he was moving closer and closer. In fact, he was going to Catholic Mass, right? And as I think it was mentioned yesterday, he was praying the Rosary towards the end of his life. So
Wow.
it's a beautiful moment, really, for all of us to kind of step back and see, if you want to do great things for the country, the best engine in your heart is a love for Jesus Christ.
I'm going to tell you, I went to an event, and I had committed to it a couple of weeks before. It was a celebration and an acknowledgement of Bible Day in the state of Pennsylvania, the 12th. The 12th on Friday, 2 days after Charlie was assassinated. And I went into Congress Hall, which is adjacent to Independence Hall. I'd never been there before. It was only open to 86 people, the same number as were representatives at the time when they created the Constitution. Now, the Declaration of Independence came first. And then, I didn't know this, King George had embargoed all products to the United States, including the Bible, and he also said that we could not print our own Bible. So he wanted to spiritually starve the colonies. And you know what? This guy, Aitken, said, screw you, King George. I'm printing my own Bible to this date. It's been printed about 60 million times. And I got to tell you, what I felt in that room, John, what I felt in that room was, it welled up inside of me, and I've been through this stuff before. I've been born again. I've had people lay hands on me. I've had all of this after, being raised Catholic, having my butt in the front pew at St. Pat's, my mother an hour early every Sunday, all of my childhood and through my adolescence. But I felt it, John. I felt it. I think that this wasn't a turning point, as I said on Wednesday or Thursday. It was the turning point, John.
Absolutely it was. And it's funny you referenced that Constitutional Convention. Our first president was there. It's been documented. He was on his knees every night reading the Bible. 250 years later, you have Charlie Kirk, American patriot. What did Charlie text you every single morning around 7 a.m.? It was his scripture quote of the day. That's how Charlie was wired. This holy Bible has fed the patriots for generations. And people wonder, why do we have 37,000 people who have now signed up? Honestly, some things don't change. You go back to the first Christian martyrs of Rome. What did the Christian writer Tertullian say famously? The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the Christians. It was true then, it's true today.
It is true. And, one of the most remarkable speeches of the night was the close, and it was a rabbi. It was a rabbi.
Wow.
My mother always taught me. She was a theologian. She was a brilliant woman. I mean, I wish I could talk to her again. But she taught me this respect, this deep and residing respect for the Jewish people, the Jewish faith, the Jewish people suffering. And I just thought it was remarkable that at a Bible event that several of the keynotes were Jewish. And it was powerful. And you look at the tribulation that the Jewish people have been through, especially since the Holocaust, since Egypt, until now, October the 7th, where the powers of evil in the world tried to erase Israel's second Holocaust, the evils. And by the way, those people are on the left. They're the ones who did that. They're the ones who are protesting on campus. But this is a righteous movement. This is a righteous movement, and I believe it's a movement for freedom and faith around the world.
Absolutely, and you cannot really understand Christendom unless you understand the power of what Judaism was for so many centuries, right? And just they enrich us, and it's a moment for America to come together, and that's what we're going to do Sunday when we're all there at State Farm Stadium for Charlie's funeral.
I wish I could be there, and John, I had mentioned on the air, and I don't hold any sway. I've got a pretty large audience, getting very large by the day, by the way. But I wish we could do something like that here in Washington, D.C., simulcast it. If there's anyone that I think that there are a lot of people around the country who would like to do the same thing. And I'd like to see it organized here in Washington, D.C. I would be there. I'm only a couple miles from the Capitol. I would be there.
Rob, it's a couple thoughts on that. You're right. People just want to get together. We already organized our first rally the day of, after Charlie, hours after he died in his local, right by his house, actually. Tonight, we're organizing a major Rosary rally outside Turning Point. People want to be together. As far as D.C., for sure, we have our annual event, Catholic Prayer for America, March 19th in D.C. Yes. Charlie is going to have a place front and center. We are going to honor that man who was such a warrior for Christ and for America. I'm
going to be there at the March for Life this year, too, because this is the first time that I've been in Washington, D.C. since I found my biological family and found I was given up for adoption because my mother was raped. And this year is going to be incredibly special, brother. It's going to be incredibly special. Can you hold on, John? I want to talk on the other side. And you mentioned the Rosary, and I want you to explain to people how important that is. And it can even be important for you, even if you're not a Catholic. Will you stick around for the next break, my friend?
100%.
I appreciate you. Let's take a break and come back. This is the Rob Carson Show.
And as far as the Democratic Party, I'm done. I'm out.
One of the things that really, I think, was one of the most impactful things that happened since Charlie Kirk was assassinated was that so many celebrated it. If you would have dropped us on the planet 20 years ago and saw this, you would have thought that they were possessed. I mean, honestly, who does that? Who does that? Who says that publicly? If your teacher walked in the beginning of class and said, "Hey, everybody, hey, kids, Charlie Kirk got killed," would you want your child taught by that person? That to me is almost like satanic possession. And I mentioned earlier it's demonic. That sort of behavior is demonic. You look at the camera and you smile at the camera and you smirk about Charlie Kirk being murdered. Honestly, John Yep, CEO and president of Catholics for Catholics, have you ever seen such a thing?
It is demonic. Us looking at this, there's two reactions. Number one, when you see that kind of abhorrent behavior, it's, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Second reaction should be a keen understanding. This is the situation we are in the United States. We have another side, we'll call it the left, call it whatever you want, the Democrats, who basically have a fundamental different vision of what America is supposed to be like. And that's why this is an existential crisis for our country, which Donald Trump is leading the way, and we're so grateful that he's president.
I was thinking of that this morning, that passage when I was going to my car this morning, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That hit me this morning, John. I was like, and then I was thinking about and listen, I don't want to make this exclusively political, but the Democrat Party has rejected God. The Democrat Party has chased God from the public square. The people in charge of our government who've called Donald Trump Hitler, who've called us MAGA fascists, enemies of democracy. I went to Independence Hall for the very first time in my life last week, stood in front of it and recognized that Joe Biden painted it red and claimed it for whatever movement he was behind and called us MAGA fascists and enemies of democracy. So they know what they do in this case, John. It's not a matter of forgive them, Father, for they know what they do, they know what they did, and they knew that the fruits of it would be murder.
They did, and it's sick, and these people have, but we have got to overcome what they're doing with our resilience, and that's so important because Charlie would want that,
yes.
And you mentioned the Rosary too. This is
yes,
something I have my days, honestly, Rob, like these past week where I just can't even work. I'm just like many people, right? We're so overcome with grief, and we're trying to make sense of this. I literally do. I've been praying the Rosary. What is the Rosary? It's an age-old tradition. It's basically putting yourself in that upper room when Christ was after he died and we were waiting for him to ascend to heaven. Mary gathered with those 12 apostles, and they were there in that upper room. And what did they do? They talked about Jesus, right? So the Rosary takes you back to that moment and just to reflect on the life and teaching of Jesus. And believe it or not, it was revealed yesterday, Charlie was praying the Rosary at the end of his life. So it may not be your prayer. That's okay. But for a lot of us, it's been just a way to heal through this moment and prepare us for the next chapter ahead.
You can search for a lot of ways to find peace in your life, and frequently that is a lifelong ambition. Sometimes we never reach it, and there are things that we do for solace. We find nature, we find natural beauty, but there's nothing better than a meditation and prayer. If you choose to do it with a rosary, then fine, and if you choose it to do in another fashion where you are praying, it is healing. I will tell you this, I had a heart attack when I was 31 years old because I had strep throat, and that's how I survived it. And there are many who say that prayer can literally reverse heart disease. That's how powerful it is. That's how powerful it is. And John, I just want you to know, I didn't know before I met you and had you on before that you were a friend of Charlie. And I'm sorry for your loss, brother, because this is profound. I can't even imagine how deeply personal it is and how difficult it has been and the amount of strength that's taken for you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and rejoin the fight.
It's been a blow to our local community. We've been going to church, every day the last week or so, and just to walk up when it's time for Holy Communion, receive our Lord, walk past the pew where Erica is, Rob, and just to hear her audible cries and groans almost the entire service. I want the audience to think about that. When you're having a hard day, when you're deciding what's going next, think about Erica's cries, okay? Because you need to use that to impel you to do something for your country and for your God.
All right. Well, John, I appreciate you, man. I know there's a reason why I had you on before, and now I have you on the show now. And, we'd love to do an event like what you're doing this weekend in Washington, D.C. I'll see what I can do on my end. But in the meantime, God bless you and yours. And once again, I'm sorry for your loss. Where can people find information about Catholics for Catholics and hear from you?
You go to CforC.com. That's our website, Catholics for Catholics. We're on X, every social media platform. And Rob, happy to help if you want to do an event in D.C. We're here to serve and bring Americans together like that. So I'm sure we'll be in touch.
God bless you, brother. I'm glad I know you.